Pope Francis's final message to King Charles left many wondering what words could possibly be so important between a pope and a monarch, especially in the face of life's end. For those who know of the relationship between Pope Francis and the British monarchy, there's always been respect and formality, yet as time passes and the world continues to change, certain moments spark curiosity, especially when they involve someone as revered as King Charles. So what was the Pope's message and why was it so meaningful? At first glance, Pope Francis and King Charles may seem to belong to entirely different worlds. One is a spiritual leader, the other a royal figurehead. However, both have spent their lives serving the greater good. Pope Francis through his commitment to faith and King Charles through his dedication to public service. Their paths have crossed over the years in different settings, but the final communication between them has sparked a sense of mystery and deep reflection. What makes the timing of Pope Francis's message even more significant is the context in which it came. King Charles, already in his older years, was facing a period of transition. His reign, his legacy, and the challenges of the modern world were undoubtedly on his mind. With global crises, personal milestones, and the weight of history on his shoulders, this final message could have been something very personal, something beyond what we may have seen publicly. The idea that a final message would come from someone like Pope Francis adds an element of intrigue. The Pope, a figure of immense moral authority and wisdom, doesn't just send messages lightly. His words carry weight and significance. In a world that often feels disconnected from the past, where messages are often rushed and short, the notion that Pope Francis chose this moment to send something heartfelt and meaningful raises the question, what did he feel was important to share with King Charles at this juncture of his life? As the details of the message remain private, one can't help but imagine the kind of reflections the Pope might have shared. Would he have acknowledged King Charles' lifelong commitment to charity and humanitarian causes, or perhaps spoken to him about the role of faith in his life and reign? Maybe Pope Francis reminded King Charles of the importance of compassion and service, qualities that have guided both of their lives in different but equally impactful ways. It's possible that the Pope reflected on the moral responsibility of leadership and the unique position King Charles occupies in the world. But there's more to this message than just a few words of encouragement. The timing of it, the fact that it came as King Charles was nearing the end of a long and meaningful chapter, adds a layer of urgency. It's as if the Pope knew that this was a moment of closure, a final exchange that would carry the weight of a lifetime. What was it that Pope Francis felt could not wait, something so urgent and personal that it needed to be said at this moment? This is where curiosity really begins to take hold. What are the thoughts, the reflections, the advice that could have been shared at such a delicate time? And beyond the personal, there's the broader impact of the message. King Charles, as the monarch, has faced challenges that few can truly understand. From growing up under the shadow of his mother's reign to being at the center of international diplomacy, he has always walked a path of public service. The weight of expectation, the constant scrutiny, and the need to balance tradition with the demands of modernity have shaped his life. Pope Francis, having seen much of the world's pain and joy, would certainly have a unique perspective on such a life. Did he acknowledge the toll of these pressures in his message? Did he offer a sense of peace, a reminder that King Charles' service had been valuable and meaningful? What is most fascinating about this final message is the mystery surrounding it. We can only guess what Pope Francis shared, and this uncertainty feeds our curiosity. What words did he choose to express, knowing that this would be the last time he would have such an exchange with the king? And more importantly, how might King Charles have received it? Did it give him comfort in his final years? Did it help him process his thoughts as he looked back on his reign and his role in the world? This final message also offers a unique opportunity to reflect on the larger themes of leadership, faith, and legacy. Pope Francis, known for his humble approach to leadership, has often spoken about the importance of serving others and remaining grounded in faith. King Charles, too, has embraced these values in his own way. The message between them was not just a formality, but a reminder of the values that had guided both of their lives, the principles they held dear, and the impact they had on the world around them. In the end, Pope Francis's last message to King Charles wasn't just a piece of communication, it was a moment of connection, a shared understanding between two men who had dedicated their lives to service. And while we may never know the exact words of that message, the curiosity around it leaves us with a powerful reminder that in the face of life's most significant transitions, sometimes the most important thing is to pause, reflect, and share the wisdom that has shaped our journey. Pope Francis and King Charles, both figures of great influence, have led lives that seem very different on the surface, yet share a deep commitment to service. Pope Francis, as the leader of the Catholic Church, has been a moral guide to millions, while King Charles, as the heir to the British throne, has served his country and the world in countless ways. The connection between these two men is built on respect, shared values, and a mutual understanding of the importance of faith in shaping the world. This connection, though sometimes subtle, has always been there, and it raises the question of how personal their relationship was, especially when it came to Pope Francis's final message to King Charles. The Pope's final words to King Charles were more than just formalities. They weren't simply a passing courtesy between two influential figures. Pope Francis, known for his personal touch and deep compassion, would have understood the importance of acknowledging the individual behind the title. King Charles has spent decades in the public eye, with his personal life often scrutinized and his every move watched by the world. Behind the crown, he is a man who has navigated complex relationships, dealt with public expectations, and worked tirelessly to support causes that matter to him, such as environmental sustainability, architecture, and the arts. So what did Pope Francis say to him in this final message? What personal thoughts or reflections might the Pope have shared with King Charles? Was it a message of encouragement or advice? Or did the Pope acknowledge the challenges King Charles faced in his own life, from the pressures of being a public figure to the weight of following a beloved monarch like his mother, Queen Elizabeth II? This sense of personal connection between the two men is important because it tells us that Pope Francis's message wasn't just about political duty or formalities, it was perhaps a deeper reflection on life, leadership, and faith. This is where curiosity truly starts to build. King Charles' life has been one of public service, but it has also been one of intense personal struggle. His journey as the Prince of Wales was marked by both achievements and controversies. There was the challenge of finding his place in a royal family defined by tradition, as well as the challenges of living in the shadow of his mother's long and highly successful reign. Did Pope Francis acknowledge these struggles in his message, offering words of comfort or wisdom? After all, King Charles has always tried to balance his royal duties with his passions and personal beliefs, particularly his strong commitment to environmental issues. The Pope, with his own views on climate change and care for the earth, would likely have understood the weight of that responsibility. Pope Francis's message then may not have been just a pat on the back or a token gesture. It may have been an acknowledgement of the hard work that King Charles has done throughout his life, the personal sacrifices he made for the greater good, and the ways in which his legacy would be remembered. As King Charles grew older, the Pope may have seen this as a moment to reflect on the impact of his reign and the way he had shaped the world through his work with charities and global issues. Pope Francis is no stranger to the challenges of leadership, having led the Catholic Church through some of its most difficult times. Perhaps the Pope in his message offered insight on how to find peace amidst the demands of leadership, or how to continue serving others despite the heavy burdens of public life. What makes this even more intriguing is the fact that Pope Francis's message came at a time when King Charles was entering a new phase in his life. With the passing of Queen Elizabeth II, King Charles was stepping into a role that no one could have prepared him for. The weight of the crown, the responsibility of being monarch, and the expectations of a world in flux must have been overwhelming. Pope Francis, with his years of wisdom, would have understood the personal transformation that comes with such a shift in role and responsibility. This is where the message might have carried special weight. It wasn't just advice for a monarch, but for a man who was facing a life-altering transition. At the same time, Pope Francis's message would have likely been grounded in his understanding of King Charles' faith. Throughout his life, King Charles has shown a deep interest in spirituality, especially in the context of the Church of England and his broader connection to religion. The Pope's message may have been a reminder of the role of faith in moments of uncertainty. For a monarch like King Charles, faith could be a source of strength, a way to navigate the complexities of his position while staying true to his personal beliefs. In this sense, Pope Francis's message might have been as much about spiritual reassurance as it was about practical advice for leadership. The curiosity around this message lies in the unknown. What exactly did Pope Francis say to King Charles? Did he offer a blessing, a piece of advice, or a call to action? While we can only speculate, it's clear that this wasn't just a casual conversation. For someone like Pope Francis, each word carries meaning, and it's likely that the message was carefully chosen. This wasn't just a passing gesture, but something that would have had personal significance for both men. What we do know is that Pope Francis's message reflected the respect he had for King Charles' life's work. In a world where public figures often face criticism and scrutiny, it's rare to find messages of encouragement or personal reflection. Pope Francis, with his humility and wisdom, would have seen King Charles not just as a monarch, but as a man who has worked tirelessly for the betterment of society. Perhaps this message was in part a recognition of those efforts, a reminder that the work of leadership goes beyond the public eye, and extends into the personal sacrifices that are often unseen. In the end, Pope Francis's message to King Charles stands as a testament to the deep unspoken bond that can form between two people dedicated to a life of service. Their final exchange was not just about duty, it was about humanity, faith, and the shared understanding of what it means to lead a life dedicated to others. While the exact contents of that message may remain a mystery, the curiosity it leaves behind speaks to the powerful connection between two influential figures who understood that leadership is not just about power, but about the impact we have on the world around us. The idea of Pope Francis sending a message to King Charles is intriguing on many levels. While many think of such messages as brief and formal, this one holds a deeper meaning. Pope Francis is not someone who would send words casually, especially to a monarch like King Charles. So what did Pope Francis want King Charles to know in his final message? Was it a piece of personal advice or something more reflective, meant to help King Charles as he navigated the complexities of his position as a monarch? To understand the significance of this message, it's important to consider the person King Charles is. He's a monarch, yes, but he's also a man who has faced his own personal challenges and triumphs. For much of his life, King Charles has been in the spotlight. His actions, thoughts, and even his personal life have been discussed, scrutinized, and debated by the public. Being a member of the royal family comes with its own set of expectations, but for King Charles these expectations were amplified due to the fact that he was always in the shadow of his mother, Queen Elizabeth II, who had a long and highly successful reign. King Charles, while having his own strengths and qualities, spent many years finding his place in a system built around tradition and duty. But beneath this public persona, King Charles has always been a man deeply committed to several causes. He has a passion for environmental conservation, a love for architecture, and a deep understanding of the importance of the arts in shaping society. In many ways, King Charles's personal beliefs and values have shaped his public service, even if they didn't always align with the traditional expectations of the monarchy. Throughout his life, he has tried to balance these personal convictions with the responsibility he holds as a member of the royal family. What could Pope Francis have said to King Charles that would resonate with him at this point in his life? Pope Francis, known for his deep spirituality and understanding of human nature, has often spoken about the importance of living a life of service, compassion, and faith. Perhaps his message to King Charles was a reminder of the strength that can be found in those values, especially during times of great personal or professional change. The role of a monarch is unlike any other leadership position. It's not just about making decisions for a country, but about setting an example, representing history, and embodying the values of a nation. Pope Francis, as someone who has dedicated his life to service, would likely have understood the weight that comes with such responsibility. At this moment in King Charles's life, as he was stepping into a new role following the passing of Queen Elizabeth II, Pope Francis's words may have been meant to help him find peace and strength in the face of such a monumental shift. For King Charles, the transition from being the Prince of Wales to being the King of the United Kingdom brought with it a new set of challenges. Suddenly, he was not just the son of a beloved monarch, but the leader of a country facing modern challenges that had never been seen before. From climate change to political instability, King Charles was stepping into a role that required not only wisdom but also adaptability. Pope Francis's message might have served as a reminder to King Charles that leadership is not about having all the answers, but about remaining true to oneself and staying grounded in one's values. Pope Francis himself has faced many challenges as the head of the Catholic Church. He has had to navigate through a time of crisis, facing scandals and questions about the future of the Church. Through all of this, Pope Francis has remained committed to the idea that leadership at its core is about service and humility. Perhaps this is the kind of message he shared with King Charles, the importance of staying humble, remaining true to his own beliefs, and continuing to serve others even when the weight of leadership seems too heavy. What makes this message even more compelling is the personal connection that Pope Francis and King Charles share. While they come from different backgrounds, both have spent their lives working towards common goals. Pope Francis has always been a champion for the poor, the marginalized, and those who suffer in the world. King Charles too has long championed causes like environmental protection and global peace. The two men, despite their differences, have aligned on several key issues throughout their lives, which would have given Pope Francis a unique perspective on the challenges that King Charles faced. Perhaps this message was not just about general advice, but about offering specific guidance based on their shared values. Pope Francis, in his message, may have taken the time to remind King Charles that the world is changing, and with it, the way leadership is perceived. In the past, monarchs were seen as absolute rulers, their word the final say in the matters of the kingdom. Today, however, leadership is about more than just power. It's about influence, humility, and the ability to unite people. Pope Francis, who has spent much of his papacy trying to bridge divides and bring people together, would likely have spoken to King Charles about the importance of unity. In times of division, the role of a leader is not only to guide but to heal. King Charles's legacy will not only be defined by the decisions he makes, but also by the way he leads his people through times of crisis. This is where the curiosity lies. What was Pope Francis's exact message to King Charles? Did he offer words of comfort, reminding him that he was not alone in facing the challenges of leadership? Did he offer practical advice, helping King Charles navigate the pressures of his new role? Or was it more of a personal reflection, a message acknowledging the unique position King Charles finds himself in as he steps into his mother's shoes? We may never know the exact words Pope Francis used, but the impact of his message is clear. At a time when the world is facing uncertainty, and King Charles was stepping into a new and complex role, Pope Francis's message was likely one of reassurance, hope, and faith. It's clear that Pope Francis understands the pressures of leadership, and his words to King Charles may have been exactly what he needed to hear as he entered this new chapter in his life. In the end, Pope Francis's message to King Charles was not just about advice or guidance, it was a reminder of the values that both men hold dear: service, compassion, and faith. At a time when King Charles was facing the weight of the crown, Pope Francis's message would have been a source of comfort, offering the wisdom of someone who has navigated the challenges of leadership with grace and humility. It serves as a reminder that even in the most difficult of times, the strength to lead comes from staying true to one's values and serving others with an open heart. The timing of Pope Francis's final message to King Charles is something that naturally sparks curiosity. Why did the Pope feel the need to send a message at this particular time? What was it that made this moment significant enough to warrant a personal final exchange between the two? As a public figure, King Charles had already been navigating the challenges of leadership for years. His reign was just beginning, following the passing of Queen Elizabeth II, yet Pope Francis reached out with a message at what seemed to be a crucial point in King Charles's life. The question many people have is whether the timing was purely a matter of circumstance, or if Pope Francis was speaking to something deeper. In a world that constantly seems to be changing, where power dynamics shift and global issues become more complex by the day, leaders find themselves facing new and unexpected challenges. For someone like King Charles, who had spent much of his life preparing for his role as monarch but had always lived in the shadow of his mother's reign, stepping into her shoes brought a new weight. The world had shifted, and so had the expectations on him. Was Pope Francis aware of the emotional, spiritual, and practical challenges King Charles was facing at this time? Was the Pope's message a reminder of what was truly important in those moments of uncertainty? King Charles's life has been one of duty, but also one of personal struggles and triumphs. He was constantly trying to find his place in a system that demanded tradition and stability, while his own passions and values led him to challenge certain norms. He has spoken often about his love for the environment, his dedication to the arts, and his desire to leave a better world for future generations. These beliefs were sometimes at odds with the conservative nature of the monarchy. His journey was not always easy, and many have wondered how he truly felt about stepping into the role of monarch. Now, with the passing of Queen Elizabeth II, King Charles was entering a new chapter in his life. His reign, while just beginning, came at a time when the world was changing in ways that no one could have predicted. Issues such as climate change, political instability, and the increasing division in society were pressing concerns. The British monarchy, long seen as a symbol of tradition and continuity, was now being asked to play a different kind of role in a rapidly evolving world. The weight of these global changes must have been on King Charles's mind as he prepared to lead. Pope Francis, with his own experiences navigating the challenges of leadership, might have seen this as an important moment to reach out. What made the timing even more significant was the fact that King Charles was not just taking on a new role, but he was stepping into it at a time of great transition. Queen Elizabeth II had been a beloved figure, and her reign had spanned several decades. The expectations placed on King Charles were enormous, and the world was watching. Pope Francis, understanding the pressures that come with leadership, might have seen this as an opportunity to offer words of support. Leaders often carry a heavy burden, and those who lead countries, especially monarchs, feel it more intensely. Pope Francis's message might have been meant to offer a sense of peace, a reminder that King Charles was not alone in facing the challenges ahead. There is also the possibility that Pope Francis's message was not just about comforting King Charles, but also about encouraging him to stay true to the values he had long championed. King Charles had always been a strong advocate for environmental causes and the protection of the planet. Pope Francis, who had similarly spoken out about the importance of caring for the earth, may have reminded King Charles that these issues were not only personal, but had global significance. With the world facing the looming threat of climate change, Pope Francis may have seen this as a moment to encourage King Charles to continue his work on behalf of the planet. The message then could have been about more than just monarchical duty. It might have been about the greater purpose that King Charles had long fought for. In the midst of this global uncertainty, Pope Francis's message could also have served as a reminder of the importance of faith. For King Charles, who has always had a deep respect for spirituality and religion, the message could have been a source of strength. As he stepped into his new role, the Pope's words might have served as a grounding force, reminding King Charles of the importance of maintaining his spiritual connection. In times of crisis or personal transition, faith often provides a sense of direction, helping leaders make decisions that are aligned with their core values. Pope Francis, who has always emphasized the importance of compassion, humility, and faith in leadership, would likely have reminded King Charles of these qualities. As the details of the message remain private, the curiosity surrounding its contents grows. What exactly did Pope Francis say? What specific guidance did he offer to King Charles? Was it simply a formality, or was it something deeper, something that would resonate with King Charles in the years to come? It's easy to imagine that the message wasn't just about offering platitudes or encouragement. It was likely something more meaningful, something that would help King Charles navigate the challenges of his reign. This is where the curiosity truly lies. The world may never know the exact words of Pope Francis's message, but we can be sure that they were carefully chosen. Pope Francis is a man of great insight, and his words are never without purpose. The fact that he chose this moment to send a message speaks to the significance of the moment itself. It's clear that Pope Francis understood the magnitude of King Charles's transition and the challenges that came with it. Perhaps in his message, Pope Francis acknowledged the difficulties King Charles would face, but also reminded him of the importance of staying grounded in his values. It's possible that Pope Francis gave King Charles the advice he needed to hear in order to face the future with confidence and humility. What is most compelling about this message is the sense of timing. The Pope didn't just reach out because it was expected, he did so because he understood the unique moment in King Charles's life. The transition from one monarch to another is always significant, but it becomes even more profound when the world is facing so many challenges. Pope Francis, with his experience leading the Catholic Church through difficult times, would have understood how crucial it was for King Charles to feel supported and connected to something greater than himself. This message wasn't just about leadership, it was about offering King Charles the tools he needed to navigate a rapidly changing world. Pope Francis's message to King Charles, though private, serves as a reminder that leadership is not just about power or influence. It's about the ability to remain true to one's values, and to stay connected to the greater good. In a world filled with uncertainty and division, messages like the one Pope Francis sent remind us of the importance of staying grounded in our faith and our purpose. The timing of this message, therefore, was not just a coincidence, it was a thoughtful response to a moment of transition, a time when King Charles needed guidance, support, and reassurance. The significance of Pope Francis's final message to King Charles lies not just in the words themselves, but in the deeper meaning behind them. Many people may wonder, why would Pope Francis, a religious leader with his own duties and challenges, take the time to send a personal message to King Charles? What made this moment so important that it called for this exchange between the two men? As a monarch, King Charles is not just a figurehead, he represents a nation, a long history, and the future of a kingdom, but beyond that, he is a human being. Someone who has spent his life in the public eye, facing immense expectations and personal trials. Pope Francis, someone who has always shown a deep understanding of the struggles of leadership, might have seen this as an opportunity to reach out to King Charles, offering words of support, encouragement, and wisdom. One of the most intriguing aspects of this final message is the timing. Why did Pope Francis feel the need to send a message to King Charles at this specific point in time? Was it because Pope Francis sensed a critical moment in King Charles's life, a time when the challenges of leadership would require more than just traditional guidance? King Charles was not just stepping into the role of monarch, he was doing so at a time of global uncertainty. The world was changing rapidly, and the weight of the crown was not just a symbol of power, it was a responsibility to address the many issues facing the world. Pope Francis, as someone who has faced his own challenges of leadership, would have understood that King Charles needed not only to be a figurehead, but also to be a guiding force in a time of great change. The nature of King Charles's reign was different from that of previous monarchs. The public had witnessed the passing of Queen Elizabeth II, a monarch who had reigned for decades, and King Charles was now tasked with stepping into her shoes. This transition from one monarch to the next is always significant, but it becomes even more complex when the world is facing crises on multiple fronts. Climate change, economic instability, political divisions and social unrest were just some of the pressing issues that King Charles would need to address. The monarchy itself was being asked to evolve, to adapt to new times and challenges. Was Pope Francis aware of this? Was his message an attempt to help King Charles navigate the complexities of modern leadership? At the heart of this message is the question of how leaders can find their way in times of uncertainty. King Charles had always been a man of strong beliefs, someone who advocated for the environment and social justice. These values, while admirable, often placed him at odds with the traditional expectations of the monarchy. The British royal family has long been known for its commitment to maintaining stability, but King Charles had always been willing to speak out on issues that mattered to him, sometimes at great personal cost. Pope Francis, who has similarly championed causes of social justice, peace and the environment, would likely have seen King Charles's struggles as a reflection of his own leadership journey. It is important to consider what Pope Francis's message might have contained. Was it a message of encouragement, reminding King Charles to stay true to his values despite the pressures of his role, or was it more of a spiritual reminder, encouraging King Charles to turn to faith in times of uncertainty? Pope Francis, who has always been an advocate for the marginalized and the poor, might have seen King Charles's role as a monarch as one that carries the responsibility of caring for others. As King Charles took on his new role, he would need to find a way to balance his personal beliefs with the demands of his position. Pope Francis's message could have been a reminder that the true strength of leadership lies in compassion and the willingness to serve others, even when it's not easy. This is where the curiosity begins to build. What exactly did Pope Francis say to King Charles in his final message? Was it a deep reflective message about the nature of leadership, or was it more personal, offering King Charles insight into how to stay grounded in his faith during difficult times? The fact that Pope Francis took the time to send this message suggests that it was not just a formality, but something more meaningful. The Pope, known for his deep spirituality, would not have sent a message lightly. There must have been something in King Charles's journey that resonated with Pope Francis, something that led the Pope to offer his guidance. In the midst of the challenges that King Charles was facing, the message from Pope Francis could have been a source of comfort. Pope Francis, a leader who has faced his own share of criticism and difficulties, would have understood the loneliness that often comes with leadership. At times it may feel as though a leader is isolated, with little support or understanding from others. Pope Francis's message might have been a reminder to King Charles that, despite the weight of his responsibilities, he was not alone. The Pope, with his own experience leading the Catholic Church, would have known that leadership can be a lonely road, but that it is also a path that can be walked with faith, humility, and compassion. Another aspect of the message that raises curiosity is the potential for Pope Francis to have offered advice on how to lead in the modern world. The role of a monarch today is different from what it was in the past. Today, monarchs are expected to be symbols of unity and stability, but they are also expected to engage with modern issues, from climate change to social justice. Pope Francis, who has consistently spoken out on these issues, might have seen King Charles's reign as an opportunity to address these global challenges head-on. The Pope may have offered advice on how to balance the traditional role of the monarchy with the need for modern leadership. After all, in a world that is rapidly changing, monarchs must evolve too. Pope Francis's message to King Charles was likely not just about politics or leadership, it was also about personal growth. As King Charles began his reign, he would need to confront not only the challenges of leadership, but also his own personal journey. Pope Francis, with his deep understanding of human nature, would have recognized this. The message could have been a reminder that personal growth is an essential part of leadership. To lead others, one must first understand oneself, and this journey of self-discovery can be both challenging and rewarding. In the end, Pope Francis's final message to King Charles holds a mystery that will likely never be fully revealed. The Pope's words were private, meant only for King Charles, but the impact of those words can be felt in the way King Charles navigates his reign. The curiosity surrounding this message lies in the unknown. What did the Pope say, and how did it affect King Charles? While we may never know the exact details, it's clear that the message was one of significance, offering King Charles the guidance and support he needed as he stepped into a new chapter of his life. There is something deeply emotional about the idea of a final message. When we hear the words "last message," our minds begin to imagine a moment filled with meaning, with silence, with something that carries the weight of unspoken truths. The same feeling comes when we think about Pope Francis sending a final message to King Charles. What were the words he chose? What tone did he use? And why does this message feel like more than just a normal exchange between two world leaders? This curiosity becomes even stronger when we think about the emotional impact this message might have had on King Charles. Imagine being in his place, stepping into the most powerful role of your life, carrying not just a crown but centuries of royal expectations, history, responsibility, and personal burden. And then you receive a message, not from an advisor, not from a politician, but from the Pope. A man known around the world, not only for his religious authority, but also for his wisdom, his simplicity, and his understanding of human struggles. Such a message is not just words, it becomes a moment you hold in your heart. No one else may know what was in that message. But still, people want to know, because they feel deep inside, that those words must have touched something personal. Was it something about peace? Was it about forgiveness? Was it about the importance of being a kind and humble leader? Or maybe it was about the things that can't be taught by royal tutors or written in royal handbooks, like how to carry the weight of people's hopes without losing your own self. Many believe that Pope Francis sees beyond politics, beyond religion. He sees people as people. He knows that behind every crown is a tired head, behind every smile is some pain, and behind every title is a person who just wants to do what's right. So maybe that's why this message came at this exact moment. Maybe Pope Francis knew that King Charles, despite his age and experience, still needed a reminder that he didn't have to carry everything alone. That real strength is not in hiding emotions, but in embracing them. The emotional weight of this message might also come from the unique connection between these two men. Both have lived lives full of pressure, both have faced critics, both have walked paths where their beliefs were not always welcomed. And both have reached the highest positions of influence very late in their lives. That alone creates a bond. It creates silent understanding, so the Pope's message might not have explained too much. It may have been short, soft, but heavy with feeling. Words like that can't be read with the eyes only. They're felt with the heart. For King Charles, who has always cared deeply about nature, the planet, people's well-being, and spiritual values, this message might have served as a confirmation that yes, his path was right. That even when he was misunderstood or criticized for speaking out about the environment or social issues, his voice still mattered. Imagine the comfort in knowing that someone like Pope Francis believes in you. Not for your crown, not for your title, but for your inner truth. This emotional side becomes even more powerful when we think about how messages like this stay with a person forever. They're not just read once and forgotten, they become a source of strength in hard times. Maybe King Charles will read it again one day, quietly, when he's alone. Maybe he already has. Maybe that message brought him peace at a time when he needed it most. The kind of peace that doesn't come from big speeches or royal advice, but from something purer, spiritual connection. This emotional effect could also go beyond King Charles himself. People around him, those who support him, may feel something from it too. Because when a leader feels emotionally supported and spiritually strong, that strength often reaches others. Maybe that message helped shape his early decisions as king. Maybe it influenced how he spoke to his people. Maybe it helped him find his own voice. Not just as a monarch, but as a man. Another reason this message carries emotional weight is because it reminds us of the human side of famous people. We often see kings and queens, popes and presidents, as larger-than-life figures. We forget that they too feel fear, pressure, sadness, and doubt. A message like this pulls us back to that truth. It tells us that even the most powerful people in the world need comfort. They need guidance. They need hope. And when they receive it, it touches not just them, but all of us who are watching. This emotional connection is also why people around the world were drawn to this moment. Even without knowing the full message, they sensed it meant something important. They felt the emotion in the silence between the lines, and they began to imagine what they would do if they were in King Charles' shoes. What would they feel? How would they carry on after reading such a message? It's possible that this message brought tears to King Charles's eyes. Not because it was sad, but because it was real. It may have spoken to the part of him that has always felt the burden of duty. The part that remembers childhood memories with his mother, Queen Elizabeth. The part that knows how hard it is to be strong when the whole world is watching. And in those words from the Pope, maybe he found permission to just be human, to feel, to reflect, to grow. As we think about the emotional power of this moment, we're reminded that leadership is not just about power, it's about heart. It's about how a leader treats people, how he listens, how he grows, and how he stays connected to what truly matters. Maybe Pope Francis's message was a whisper of that reminder. Maybe it said, be kind, be true, be steady. Simple words, but deeply emotional when said at the right time. Even without knowing the full message, we can feel its emotional weight. We feel it because we all understand what it means to need comfort, to need understanding, to need someone to say, you're not alone. That's what makes this message more than a royal detail. It makes it a human moment. A quiet exchange that touched a heart, and perhaps helped shape a king's journey in the most meaningful way.